if it's an ethical kill, right? It's quick, painless. That's what we go for. We're not there to shoot a deer and have them have a suffering death, right?
So from your perspective, and I just want to get clarification here, from your perspective, if a guy, let's say he's rounding up squirrels just to chop their head off, right? Clean, we call it clean, whatever. So let's say he's rounding up squirrels, chopping their head off, leaving them, right? That's wrong in your book. But if he's cooking them, then the action becomes moral.
Yeah, because he's at that point he is, thankful for what the squirrel can provide, and he's using it for a good purpose,
All right. Thank you for coming to talk.
Yeah.
My name's Brandon.
My name's Christian.
Christian?
Nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. So, are you vegan?
I'm not vegan currently.
Okay.
No.
So, I'm gonna go over. I'm kind of gonna walk you through why you should be vegan.
All right.
So first, I'm gonna define it so you know what veganism is. So veganism is an ideology that rejects the commodification of animals.
Right.
That means we don't want to use them, abuse them, or kill them for food, clothing, entertainment, or anything else. So what about that definition do you not align with?
Me personally, I'm a big outdoors guy.
Okay.
So like a lot of my, hobbies and stuff is like fishing, hunting, and so I think personally that's kind of takes away from like a lot of what I do outdoors and stuff, and like I do believe that God intended us to harvest animals for us to eat and everything. So like that's kind of where I kind of line up, but I've heard some good arguments on both sides, but
okay, all right, so we could go from there. So a couple of things. I mean, I like going outside too. I like doing activities, going to the beach, hiking, whatever. I don't think the activities we pursue need to or even should involve like exploiting or harming others, right? And I include animals and others, right? Obviously, if I really enjoyed a hobby that harmed other people, right? It doesn't matter how much I love doing that, everyone would immediately say, no, you can't do that, you're harming other people, right? Okay. Same thing with animals, we do have laws against certain animal abuse, specifically domesticated animals, so you can't even hit a dog, hit a cat, you get fined, or, if the abuse is so bad, you get jail time. So when it comes to hunting, fishing, things that you don't need to do, but you do out of your own enjoyment, I would say that enjoyment just isn't a justification for an action, right? A lot of people can enjoy individual actions, but that doesn't mean that that's just because you enjoy something doesn't mean you should be allowed to do that if it harms others, right? And you mentioned the God thing. I talk to a lot of Christians. Are you Christian? Sorry, I don't want to.
I am, yeah.
Okay. Talk to a lot of Christians who use their faith or the Bible to justify what we do to animals. Funny enough, I actually had it wasn't really a debate, but we had a conversation with a Christian who actually uses his faith to be plant-based or be vegan. Okay. And I know it says in the Bible that we have dominion over animals, right? One of the biggest things that he actually points to, this other guy, is that Garden of Eden was vegan. Yeah. So before, was it Eve who sinned, or one of them, before sin came into the world, all of the food was vegan, right? Yeah. So animals weren't meat yet. But apart from that, when we say dominion can be interpreted in a lot of ways, right? And maybe at the time where Jesus was around, thousands of years ago, we didn't have the tools and technology that we had today, right? Where dominion meant, okay, we need to eat these animals, but let's treat them nicely, right? Or treat them with respect or more humanely. But nowadays in 2024, where we have technology that we don't have to continue breeding these animals and killing them, I would say dominion would take more of an appropriate definition like parents over their children, right? So parents do have dominion over their children, right? They can determine what's right for them, what's wrong for them, to a certain extent. What they can't do is treat them poorly. They can't abuse them, they can't kill them, they definitely can't eat them, right? So when it comes to dominion, if we can interpret that to mean take care of and, I don't want to say nurture, but to not abuse, why wouldn't we extend that to also not killing and eating them as well? Yeah.
I mean, never really thought about it that deeply, I think another hard reason for me to transition to vegan is because it's really difficult to get the calories and protein that you need in a day, So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You got a good argument there, But
yeah, generally, so I could go into nutrition because I track my food, I do all that. But are you generally against animal abuse?
Against animal abuse? Mm-hmm. I think that pets, yeah, I think if you're owning an animal, but I mean, I think it's just a part of life to, you know, you gotta provide, so you gotta kill animals to live sometimes. That's just kind of how it's been since the dawn of time, I guess, you know.
Let me give you a more specific scenario. So if you saw somebody taking a squirrel and just strangling it, would you be against that action?
A squirrel?
Yeah.
Are they gonna eat it?
Even if they were going to eat it, would strangling be okay in your eyes?
Would it be clean, like harmless? Well, strangling, I think that's kind of a cruel way to kill an animal. But if it's a abrupt, you know, yeah, my buddies over here laughing at me.
That's all right,
They hunt too, so. But if it's it's a humane, like in the hunting world, right? If it's an ethical kill, right? It's quick, painless. That's what we go for. We're not there to shoot a deer and have them have a suffering death, right? So
from your perspective, and I just want to get clarification here. From your perspective, if a guy, let's say he's rounding up squirrels just to chop their head off, right? Clean, we call clean, whatever. So let's say he's rounding up squirrels, chopping their head off, leaving them, right? That's wrong in your book. But if he's cooking them, then the action becomes moral.
Yeah, because he's you know, at that point he is you know, thankful for what the squirrel can provide, and he's using it for a good purpose, you know.
But let me give you the third option, which I think most people who are still eating meat don't even think of, right? So one option is he's taking these animals, abusing them. I consider killing, beheading abuse, right? It might not be prolonged suffering, but they're ending the life of a sentient animal who doesn't want to die, right? So he's taking these animals, abusing them, and then leaving them, right? No use, no purpose, just for his own enjoyment, right?
For game, you know.
For game.
That's wrong, in my opinion.
Well, a lot of people hunt for game, but we'll get into that. So that's one scenario. Second scenario is he's taking these animals, doing the same exact action, chopping their head off, but now grilling them on the barbecue, right? Okay. So in your eyes, that's different. But in both scenarios, right, whether he's doing it for game, whether he's doing it for food, let's say the third option right next to him is a bowl of rice and beans, or a bowl of some type of plant-based food, right? Whether it be, it's got your nutrition, you've got your calories, you could easily feed your family with plants instead of having to behead all these squirrels, right? Now, and this is kind of what veganism is advocating for, when you have an option where you don't need to behead any animals, right, or any of these, you know, in this intentionally behead these animals, you use them as products, now you have both actions which are equally as needless. Right? One is for game, one is for taste pleasure. Both are equally as needless. It's just a lot of people, they think that they need to kill these animals and eat them when we just don't. We don't have to anymore. And that's what veganism is. It rejects the exploitation of animals. The reason why we can do that is because of the way the world is currently, right? Obviously in the 1800s, it'd be a totally different story. But now, right, just like how we evolved to progress our morals, right? Things that were legal 100 years ago, women couldn't vote. 200 years ago, they were still segregation, slaves, and all these things that we have progressed beyond. We can do the same thing with animal products and killing animals. Okay. Does that kind of make sense in that scenario?
Yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, and then when it comes to the hunting and you said the painlessness, yeah, I mean, a big part of veganism is also like being against suffering, right? Because in factory farming, where 98% of animal products we get them from, there's a tremendous amount of suffering. I don't know if you've ever watched slaughterhouse footage, but it's horrific. Prolonged abuse, mutilation, early deaths. Like even the meat that you eat at the store, they're practically babies. They're killed at a fifth to a tenth of their lifespan, essentially. So very, very young. But separate from that, even if it was a painless, sufferingless death, right? Would you want to die that way? Like, would you want to be killed prematurely?
For another human to eat me?
Just in general.
I mean, animals are used for food. We're not necessarily used for food.
But forget about what they're used, because we determine what they're used for, right? There's no law of nature that says every animal gets eaten or has to get eaten, right? We decide to eat these animals, right? So I'm just talking about the action, right? Would you want to be killed prematurely, right? Let's say at 25 years old, I don't know how old you are, but at 25 years old, would you want to be killed, even if it's painless? Even if somebody just comes, bullet in the back of the head, you never see it coming, lights out, you're gone, would you want to be killed that way?
I guess at that point it's God's will for me to go to heaven. So, I mean, I'd be in heaven at that point.
But if you had I understand that, you know, I know that with your faith, you may believe that God, you may have faith that God has a plan. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, like, we can recognize that there are murderers in the world, right? And we could say that God willed it for you to be murdered at that time, but for the most part, generally, being murdered is viewed upon as a bad thing, right? We want to avoid, murderers and being murdered, right? So I guess that's my question. If you had the option, would you? I'm just trying to get you to empathize with these other animals, right? Because you're saying, well, it's painless and needless, but if you were faced with that choice of, okay, I either bolt gun you in the back of the head when you're not seeing coming, or I don't do that, which one would you choose?
Yeah, I mean, I guess no animal wants to die, but
Right. And if we don't have to, then why would we do it?
if we don't have to,
Yeah.
it's just kind of how the world works, man.
But we could change the world, man. That's probably what slave owners said about slaves. It's probably what men said about women. You know, all of these policies and all of these laws that we had in place at some point were deemed moral or were normalized by the majority. But as time goes on, better argumentation, better science, we can actually shift that goalpost.
Yeah.
You know, so I agree with you. It is how the world works now.
Yeah.
Over 98 or like 98, 97% of the world still eats animal products, and obviously, but I don't know if you've seen it, but things are moving. You know, things are definitely shifting. More talk about veganism. So you can be part of that shift, especially, you know, if what I'm saying here makes sense. And I guess one other thing, which I always like to connect with people on, is moral consideration, right? So I know that, I don't want to make assumptions, but based on your faith, you know, humans have souls, animals don't, right? So I know that. And I know if I ask you why do humans deserve moral consideration, you might say it's because of God, right? God willed it, or God gave us souls. But separate from the God thing for one moment, do you believe or do you agree that humans deserve moral consideration? And by consideration, I mean we should care about how our actions impact each other.
Like human to human?
Yeah, human to human, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the fundamental reason? Why does it matter, right? Why does the impact of my actions on you and vice versa matter?
Because we're trying to shine the light of Jesus to one another. That's my goal in life. So, you know, you gotta act it out in life, you know?
Okay. No, that's fair enough. I mean, that's fair enough. But separate from your goal, separate from the goal of Jesus, just from like an individual, like why does, like for example, if I wanted to cause you harm right now,
Okay.
why would that matter to you? And why should I care about how that affects you?
I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay. So, pretty much what I'm getting at is our ability to experience the suffering or the action that's inflicted upon us, right? And that's something that separates sentient animals, humans, most of the other animals in the animal kingdom, versus inanimate objects and plants or non-sentient life, right? So like, if I'm coming at you with a weapon, right? You can perceive that. You can experience that, right? You can feel the sensation of the weapon hitting you, or you can feel things, right? You have like an awareness, right? And scientific consensus tells us that other animals also have this same sentience, right? Maybe not in the exact same way, but they process things and have an awareness individually, right? So if humans deserve more consideration at the most fundamental reason, the most basic level, because it would make you feel bad, or certain actions would make you feel good, right, depending, and animals can also experience that. They can also feel that same thing. Then wouldn't it make sense to extend our moral consideration not just to other humans, but to also other species of animals, because we have that in common?
Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from, you know, and I appreciate your passion for, you know, what you're doing. But I don't know, it's just like, it's kind of tough for me to translate the human life to an animal's life.
Sure.
But I do have to get rolling.
Sure,
here.
man. Well, I appreciate you
your
coming.
time. Yeah.
I urge you to look more into it, man.
Thank you. I will.